your cue. Yes.
A very pleasant good afternoon, magandang umaga, magandang tanghali, magandang hapon, magandang gabi sa inyong lahat. I'd like to welcome all of those who've been watching us, hearing us, sharing us over this Rita Gadi hour. And we are also very honored this afternoon to have with us as our special guest, or maybe my partner for this particular program, Sir Butch Valdez. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. The honor is mine, Rita. I've been longing to be able to come out in your show for some time now, in order to be able to have that pleasant chat which we always have during your show.
Yes, indeed. Especially now, Sir Butch, we have only something like 48 days, and then we'll have a new batch of people, those aspiring to run our country, and then their vice presidents, senators, congressmen, and all the way down 1,540 mayors, municipalities and cities, and then you have the provincial governors, then you have all of their councils and their boards, etc. Ang dami. Just recently, they were showing how lengthy the ballot is. It's always been like that, ang haba-haba.
Yeah.
And then, of course, you have all of these hundreds of party list candidates. And anyway, so that's the way it goes. The title of our program this afternoon is Expectations. And we'd like to welcome everybody for this hour, which is your hour, actually. I'm Rita Gadi, and together with Sir Butch Valdez, the title of our program, Expectations. Oh, my goodness. Are we still expecting anything at all? You know, every time, every 6 years or 3 years, whenever we have elections, parating merong expecting something. I don't know if it is for good or for ill, but this time, it really is quite a circus we're having here. You have so many candidates who want to be president, and together with their vice president. But the question now, Sir Butch, is it possible to have an ideal candidate?
That's hard to, it's hard to answer, but there is, of course, it's possible to have ideal candidates, and we can have ideal leaders and ideal presidents. But so far, at least in the last 4 decades, I don't think we have had that privilege of having ideal presidents, leaders, or even candidates. And it became a sad state, a commentary of our era, that such a situation and all succeeding leaders somehow pale in comparison, as far as competence is concerned, to the previous leader we've had. Marcos, to my mind, was a leader. Politically, there were disputes and some people were being carried about by whatever it is, but he was a leader. Matter of fact, I considered him a contemporary revolutionary because of his stand at the time that he had to face up to the powers that be that were outside the Philippines, that were trying to control the Philippines. And indeed, eventually, when they finally ousted him, they took control. And after they took control after Marcos, the level of the standard of leadership that we had that been nothing compared to what we had when it was Marcos. So we go through these motions of elections, pero wala tayong nakikita, meron tayong presidente, pero wala tayong leader. No? At walang gumagawa ng kailangan gawin. Nobody does what is necessary to do because they don't they don't have the competence, and second, they don't have the moral courage to do what is necessary. There are people that have both, but they're not in politics. Or if they want to get into politics, they are shunted off or disqualified or whatever. No? So that's the situation in our country. Now, who is they? Who is the one that is shunting and preventing the Philippines from having this kind of independence, sovereign choices of leaders? Well, those that are in control of the economy, those that are in control of finances, and those that are in control of politics. And I don't, of course, we refer to the Smartmatic, COMELEC as a tool that are used in order to choose our leaders now. But there are people behind that and specific interests that want to maintain their hold and control of the country. First are the oligarchs here that have taken over the country, excuse me, via the public utilities. They're earning trillions and trillions of pesos because they have been able to privatize all of the public utilities. Number two will be those that are in control of the so-called Smartmatic. These are the George Soros's /CIA. No? And they use this they use these methods of using Smartmatic to cheat elections with audacity. They don't care. They don't care if the people don't like you. This Smartmatic, you must remember, was able to unseat a sitting US president. You cannot be more powerful than the US president unless you were Smartmatic. Who is Smartmatic? Even in the US, no? It's George Soros. No? And who do you think Smartmatic is here? It's the same culprit, no? George Soros. And why will they be interested in the Philippines? You look what's happening in Europe now, no? The Philippines is a very strategic area for the United States and the Western powers. No? So you don't have to wait too long or look too far to see what the possibilities are that will happen here in our region. That's why the Philippines is strategic, and it is important that the leader that they have here, no, is somebody that they can
manipulate. Yeah.
So that's my initial comment.
Yeah. Well, it's always been that case over the past, as you said, several administrations, even prior to Duterte, you know. So there has always been the hand of this group of these are the manipulators of not just of the Philippines but of other countries. They do this specifically for them to be able to control the flow of money, as they say. Before, you know, there was this when they say who controls the waters controls the world. Now it's who controls the flow of money controls the world. So that is how they get into this. And so it is really begging a question when I say, is there an ideal candidate? I mean, the question is for whom? For us or for them? For them, yeah, the ideal candidate is somebody that they have strings attached that they can manipulate. I think they do this not only in the Philippines, but in other countries. But how about us? What are our expectations? You have this external group that manipulates countries and leaders. As you know, what they do is they first make you look bad, and then they will take you out. That's exactly what they did with the Shah of Iran. They did that to Saddam Hussein. They did that to Gaddafi. And all they tried to do that. They did their best to do that to Duterte and so forth. But even prior to an elected president, they are already manipulating in a way, as you said, using this method of the electoral process, Smartmatic, etc. There have been so many expectations, really. So let's not expect. Is that it? We just settle for what is there, whoever there is. You have how many candidates for the presidency? And you could see now the hand of this manipulator, Soros, etc., that entire cabal, if I would call it that, that could very well infiltrate our electoral system as they have done in the past.
Rita, I was just thinking about this last night, that why is it that everybody knows that this election will be a result of massive cheating, no? And why is it that it is widespread knowledge that COMELEC and Smartmatic will be able to do their sway, and yet we have candidates for the president, all of them hopeful to be the president, no? But do they know something that we don't know? As the public, we know there's going to be cheating, but are we thinking that these candidates don't know that there is be cheating? It's unlikely, because they are the ones that really should fear that there will be cheating, because some of them have been politicians for some time and they knew that people got their positions by cheating. People got their positions by buying out or buying their positions from COMELEC. They know that. But why do they still enter this? No? And do they think that they can buy their way into the presidency more than the others who have money? No? So I was just thinking, why is it? Obviously, it is not their hope that there will be clean elections, because they know that all of these things are being bought by different entities, no? Especially the presidency. No? If you cannot personally buy yourself into the presidency, you can sell yourself into the presidency. And sell to whom? No? To the interests that want to perpetrate their control.
Yeah.
I said, if you are one of those that want to sell to the interest of those who want to control you as president, isn't that the same intention of the candidate next to you? It's
so much of, yeah. It's so much, yeah, right.
It now becomes who can sell better to those that will make you win, and not to the people. This is, and the people are there so that you have a semblance of, if they cheat in your favor, it will be easily accepted because the people were swarming into your rallies. And this, I think, is the real situation. We have prostitutes for candidates. They, in the back of their mind, they know that not Uncle Sam, no, regime change people like CIA and George Soros. They have been doing this all over the world. They call this color revolutions. And the CEO of Mark Malloch Brown of Smartmatic, who works for George Soros, actually invented practically the color revolutions, starting with the yellow of Cory, no?
Yes.
And then the red of Samuel Taksin in Thailand, the orange in Ukraine. They were the ones. This CIA George Soros tandem, no? They were always the color revolutions, no? And here we are now, pink, no? The color that has not yet been chosen.
It's not
So,
even.
so this is the situation I think we have, no? Who can best sell? And if you are the buyer, if you're George Soros and you are the financial, if you are the oligarchs here, no? Who will be best? Who can you manipulate the easiest? And
I think that's the key word, Sir Butch. It's not really the buying, or who can buy, or who can
buy the
afford.
votes. Yeah.
It's really who they can manipulate.
Yeah.
So this is we've asked this question some time back. Where is the American hand? Actually, as you said, it is not an American hand. It is the hand of the deep state, the invisible movements. I think Trump called it the swamp, or whatever else it was called. So this manipulation began early on, as you said, the colored revolution, because that is where they would want to control countries, leaders and countries. So here we are at this stage. We are going to have a change of government because we have these national elections for the presidency. And while there is one candidate, you've mentioned something about Marcos, who was really a true leader at the time, and everything else after him, just didn't measure up to really good leadership, not with a vision, not with an ideal, not with something that they would have already forecasted as far as their intent to be president is concerned. But what's important here is, if the people that are actually there in the rallies and so forth, you still have to ask the question, can they be converted into votes? See, all of this, that's one. Second, since you have the machines, and why is it that nobody at this stage is still crying out to remove these machines and have what was earlier proposed, some kind of a hybrid electoral system? Or because it's really that it's that source code, it's that counting thing that manipulates it. They've had so many investigations and inquiries in just recently. You had Senator Amy Marcos already questioning the COMELEC regarding this. But as you've said, Sir Butch, none of the candidates seem to have, elevated this, shout out. Okay, so there we are with that situation.
Well,
does the system actually make it impossible now to do something about what is happening with this these machines?
Well, you mentioned Amy Marcos having disclosed certain things that are anomalies in the operations of the COMELEC. And I consider that a real welcome development, because normally these politicians are quiet about the cheating of COMELEC and the Smartmatic or whatever. But Amy Marcos seems to be scared, so she wanted to disclose this. Maybe she is of the opinion that her brother will be cheated out of the presidency. And rightly so. I mean, if you were the Marcoses, you'd be scared that something like this is happening. Knowing the power of those regime change organizations, no? You have to be scared. Now, this is where the question you just posed is crucial. What do we do, or how do we go about correcting the situation? First of all, the if you consider COMELEC, corrupt COMELEC and Smartmatic, is the corruption is endemic in that institution. There is no way that you should allow yourself to be a candidate in an election that they are organizing. Even if it is on May that we have our elections, there is no way dapat, no? If you have the balls to say that I am not running as president for as long as this COMELEC is in charge, no? If these candidates that we have would say that, and they will move as a group, no, to demand for the president, no, to have a thorough examination and audit of all of the electoral processes that these people have been preparing, no, in order to be able to take control of the elections and usurp and usurp the will of the people, then maybe we will see something better. We may not have elections in May because the examination that we demand from the president might be going on. No? But certainly, if the ultimate result of that is a change in the electoral process, change in the institution that handles it, no? And the people that are in it, certainly whoever is the candidate, even if it is Bongbong or whoever, no, might feel more assured that he will, if he wins, he would have won in a clean election. And that is the best mandate that you can really expect, no? And want. No? That is what gives you the happiness. Because you know these people, 50 million of them, no, voted you as president. Rather than saying, I am president because George Soros made me president. And from that time on, your full administration will be facing riots and whatever else in these critical times, and you most probably will fail.
But don't you think it's a little too late in the day, Sir Butch? We have only about 48 days to go. And even though there are inquiries and expectations, again, coming from the Senate with all of their inquiries, Senator Marcos has been pressing for this, but the changes that will have to be undertaken will take a while because the contract with Smartmatic has been signed early on. So either they rescind that contract. As you said, why don't the candidates get together and do something about what is happening as far as these machines are concerned? But they don't seem to be, Soros might be a strange name for them. Well, Malcolm Moloch, as you mentioned another name, he has been there as one of the public relations firms that was hired by Mrs. Aquino in her first, when she first sat, and he has been there ever since.
Yes, Mark Malloch Brown.
Mark. In
but
fact,
this is the unique part about it. Whether we consider it late, or when we say, isn't it too late? When is it too late for the people? This will be. Can you imagine? And I'm, you know me, I'm just saying, I'm a dreamer, no? But if all of the Marcos supporters feel that they will be cheated out of this presidency, no? Will they still go through the elections and say there will be a revolution if you don't make us win? What would you have looked like? You will look like the poor loser. And sasabihin nila, lahat natalo, siyempre, dinaya. Right?
Hmm.
On the other hand, if you know what everybody knows, that there will be cheating in using this tandem, COMELEC and Smartmatic, and you encourage all the other candidates, and you will see who candidate will not join you. All these other candidates to go to rally around COMELEC, demand for the president to do something to examine the whole process. But mind you, it is not enough for Duterte to come out. I assure you the elections will be clean and honest. That's stupid. No, we have to know that they really are going to be clean, and we will scrutinize it well. To the point that even if it needs the abolition of this institution, yes, so let it be. You cannot abolish without the revolutionary government, so let it be. No? We're fighting for our nation. We're fighting for our future. We're not fighting for Bongbong Marcos or Isco or anybody there. No? All of those people that are supporting, they know that they feel that they will have a future, let's say, with Bongbong Marcos. The others will have a future with their own candidates. But that future will not be given if the elections were not true. So we have to get that. Now, it has not been done before because politicians always were guilty of being of paying up for their positions. Whether or not they cheated, they still give money to COMELEC and whatever. No? But this is the time when the supporters are the ones that are supposed to demand it, no? and the candidates will have to follow and go threaten to burn COMELEC if that is necessary.
So, yeah.
But you know, because that's where it all starts, Rita, hindi ba?
Yeah,
Exactly. It starts with incompetent, cheating leaders who have taken their positions against the people's will. And then they use media and all of that to quell any kind of unrest. No? And then what happens? All the economic policies, all the procedures that we follow are anti-people and anti-sovereignty. So it all starts there. So you're going to have to stop it where it starts, no? And preempt the situation.
You know, this is very strange, Sir Butch. We are in that situation right now. Over the past so many sessions of the legislature, Congress and the Senate, they've been talking about this. They've had several inquiries, investigations. They even had some kind of well, they showed it in Congress, how these machines were operating and what happens and so forth. And yet, I still have to hear one candidate for the presidency that would question that precisely. And there is not one of them, and even those that are doing their interviews or having this, I don't know, this is a strange phrase they use, a presidential debate. The debate is one-on-one, you know, but here you have several debating with each other. I don't understand it. But when you have the presentation of these people, when they're being asked the question, even those that are in the panel of those questioning have not brought this up. You know, nobody has asked, what will you do if the counting machines are not going to count it properly? It has been proven in the past, and then it's going to be done again. So at this stage, Sir Butch, none of the candidates, as far as I can hear and see, has questioned the COMELEC. Even when the contract was already signed, nobody even raised this up before even the filing of certificates of candidacy.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
at this stage, as we've said, all of those huge crowds, you had the big rally of Robredo in Pasig, and they were exuberant about this, and but
Yeah.
the conversion of that crowd to votes may be registered, 187,000 of them, but will the counting machine count it in her favor? Or will something else be
Yeah.
done as far as that's concerned? So none of the candidates ever brought this up. What then are the expectations that the people should raise at this
Well,
stage?
the thing is, are the votes actually counted, whoever they vote for? No? Or
If
is
they're
there
actually counted.
are they really counted? Or is there already a generated data on this? We have, during the 2019 election, Rita, I don't think you may have been privy to this, but I can mention this without. There was a person that came over here and talked to me and another, and said that he was the father of a boy who was who worked for about 1 week, yeah, 1 week
Yes.
in this warehouse, in this warehouse near the airport. I will not mention who owns the warehouse, but they were encoders of election data that was fed to them. They don't know where that came from, but they just encode it. And this whatever the results of that, they were about 300 young people. They were strictly being supervised. Nobody talks to each other. There will be no questions asked, and they were paid well. And after that, the results are given to whoever, and they don't know where it goes. Now, they suspected that this was a detour of the
Yes, I was
data.
about to mention that word. Yes, it's a detour.
Yeah. So it went into this operation, and once it gets into that operation, it is adjusted in accordance with what the results are, and then sent to the transparency server or the PICC big screen to show that these are the votes that have been cast. Although they are unofficial, this is the votes that have been cast. The official tally will have to go through the municipal, the provincial, and then the national. So it will take time. But mauuna itong so-called transparency server that brings this out. Now, that detour is not part of the official system. Now, so what do? They already come up in conspiracy with the mainstream media, with the data, and they're announcing already who the winners are even before the official tally is made. What happens, of course, is the official tally is consistent with the unofficial tally. Because nahuhuli yung official tally, so ang dali nilang i-adjust dun sa unofficial. This can be done, and I suppose in very simple terms, that's being done all over. And the votes that we cast, we go through the motions, we press whoever we want to vote. It reaches there. But you don't know whether it's one of those that are counted or one of those that's taken out. So, ganyan ang nangyayari.
Yeah. I think we had a lengthy presentation of that here with KDP. Remember,
Yes.
Yeah, we had that. We even showed the building,
Yes.
and we showed the graph some time back. Yes, I remember this, and we've talked about it quite lengthily. But since then, nothing has been done, and now we are discovering. early on that something other than that is still being added up to this manipulation, like the printing of the ballots, where none of the political parties are represented to watch the printing. I think they said something like 60% were already printed. So we don't know whether they're going to reprint again or whether they're going to burn those ballots, whatever. But there is a question behind this, which is even more dangerous. So there we have the system of manipulation. There is a detour that was undertaken. It was exposed. It was shown. As a matter of fact, I think even in the inquiries and investigations in both houses of Congress that was presented. But nonetheless, it is still there. We don't know whether it has been stopped or it has been corrected, but the machines are still there. So these are the same machines that did all of this. So we don't know whether the procedure has been changed, as you said, that detour. But beyond this, or at the back of this, or over on top of it all, are the manipulators. That is where the danger is. And we know that the hands of these people, the strings that they have, which they do in several countries, they don't want a president, they do this, they either do again another election or whatever, and then they try to, they will remove this president according to whoever can follow what they want. So this is all for the flow of money, or where they can source their income. We have the pharmaceutical mafia, which was in full operation during the pandemic. You have seen that all of these vaccines are supposed to have been tested at least for 10 years. This was rather fast that they came up with the vaccines, and everybody just accepted, oh, okay, na yan. So whatever it is, that's another angle altogether. But nonetheless, these are the same people, Sir Butch, that manipulate not just health systems, but also governments and leaders. Now, we are facing this in 48 days. And whoever will be manipulated by the actions of this group will be the one that would possibly win the elections if everything follows through and Smartmatic continues with its detour. So will the other candidates rise up in protest? But you can't have another people power against this. As they say, kung natalo ka, kasi nagdaya yung kalaban mo. But that's exactly what they're going to do. So the people behind it are going to manipulate, and we may have a president that they are able to control, because then we could see that in controlling the leadership of our country, they can do what they want to do as far as you said earlier, the strategic location of our country. We are facing,
they're in control of our lives and our future as a people. No? That's what happens. No? I suppose there still are a few that can see this, and still are a few that might want to do something about it. But the only solution, I think, is not to wait and react to the cheating after the elections, because your position becomes very weak. No? They will say that you're a poor loser. They will say you have to prove cheating in such magnitude for the courts to even consider, assuming that the courts are not being paid by these people. Malabo na. And then they are in position. They're sitting already and giving the orders as to what they're passing, the laws that they want to pass. Something like this has to be preempted. If we are not willing to do that, if the candidates are not willing to do it now and tell their supporters to do it now, then after the election, when they lose, they better shut up.
Exactly.
Because wag ka nang magsabing dinaya ka. No? You don't have a right to do that. No? You
Now
were,
is the
you
time.
were told na dadayain ka, wala kang ginawa. Tapos ngayon dinaya ka, umiiyak ka dyan. No? Kaya it is clear that the way that the candidate should do it now. If there are, let us say, five real candidates, I can already tell more or less who will be the possible people that might, not yet sure, but that might agree to this call. No? You have Bongbong Marcos, you have Manny Pacquiao, no? maybe Ping Lacson. I have I don't think Isko or Lenny will want to do that because of their connections. But at least when you have these three, Bongbong Marcos, Manny Pacquiao, and Ping Lacson's group, together with a massive rally of people that are clamoring for a inspection, examination by an independent group of competent people and with integrity. And they will audit the process and they will come up with, say, what are the anomalous areas. And if there is anything substantial, then it will be reason to abolish that commission. And if it needs to be an adjustment to the Constitution or a total change in the Constitution, then let it be. Because that's what the people want. The situation, as you know, our Constitution, we continuously refer to the Constitution only when it becomes convenient. And yet the Constitution is being used against us. It's there supposed to be to protect us. And if there are provisions in the Constitution that protect the people, they don't use it to protect the people. Instead, they will use another provision and interpret it in such a way that they're able to do it for themselves and not for the people. There are several occasions in this that bring this out.
There was a proposal earlier, Sir Butch. I think it was also Senator Amy Marcos who presented this, the hybrid kind of election, because the danger there is once your ballot gets into that machine, yun na ang nakakatakot. Hindi mo na alam kung saan pupunta yung balotang mong pumasok doon at kung anong gagawin nila. But if, for instance, right there at the precinct, there will already be the counting of your votes there before it is fed into that, what you said, that national screen, the unofficial results, which will be shown to, to the entire country. Doon pa lang sa presinto, alam mo na yung pamilya mo, let's say 5 members of your family, bilang na yung boto doon. I think that was some kind of a proposal. It may not need a constitutional change. It is just a simple manner of doing that hybrid kind of electoral process where you can actually count your vote at the precinct level. Kasi yung nakakatakot talaga, Sir Butch, yung pagpasok na doon sa makina na yan, saan dadalahin? Saan pupunta yung balota mo?
Too late na yan kung yan ang gusto ni Amy. Again, that's what I call too late, no? Because you're going to change a system from within, hoping that it's going to be the correct one and it will be clear. But it's not necessarily going to be an assurance to the public that it is clean. No? You have to do a complete, what you call an audit of the whole system, what they have been doing through the years and how they've been manipulating the results. That one has to be done and clean it up. If there was any real organization that should be cleaned up or taken out as part of the commission, as part of the Constitution, you should make it only for me, you make this an agency of the Supreme Court, not under the president. No. Make it an agency of the Supreme Court so that you can be assured that they are apolitical. The moment you put it under the president, then it's already affected by politics. But that's another point. The thing here is get the people together and make a situation, create a system that will be immune to the George Soroses, to the CIA, to the oligarchic money, and so on. So create that, and it can be done. Now, do we have the political will to do it? You ask the politicians. No.
You know, Sir Butch, it's as you said, you're a dreamer, I'm a dreamer. How far can our dreams go, you know?
Yeah.
Sometimes they say they could be part of, Carl Jung had this the subconscious, which may probably surface somewhere. And
But
will
you
have
know, I was just telling somebody that we were having lunch with yesterday, and he said that, I said something about we must be we must be sincere in our convictions, and we must act with sincerity of our convictions and nobility of our cause, I said. Then somebody said, but that's too idealistic. And then I said, if no one of us in the Philippines think in idealistic terms, then we are all going to be slaves, I said, and be comfortable in being slaves.
Yeah, that's the danger there. You know, sometime back, even in the early years of our Holy Father, the Pope Francis, already warned about the global oligarchy, whose greed actually is the one that controls the world now. Their greed has no limit. As you can see, we have suffered under the oligarchs, an oligarchic rule.
Yeah.
For so many years since 36 years ago. So that is where you have now, it's tied up with the global oligarchy, and
Yeah.
it is a wide gap actually that cannot be filled anyway. So
But exactly, when you look at it that way, it's so formidable that people might want to say, wala kang magagawa, ganyan talaga. No? And that's where they want us to go, in despair and accept that situation. No? But I am sure you feel it, I feel it.
but then,
I am of age, no? And I realize that the struggle is what makes me happy, not the actual result of
exactly.
what we're trying.
That's why, precisely, Sir Butch, and that's why I have not stopped talking. You
Yeah,
mentioned something about the time of President Marcos as a leader.
yeah,
And when we say that even at that time, you already had the workings of the oligarchy here in our country and also globally, well, he stood firm. Can you imagine at the height of the Cold War when there was a Vietnam War occurring 5 hours away from us?
yeah,
He stood firm and said, I am not going to fight there. You know, and then all the American presidents, not all, the president then, Lyndon Johnson, was thinking that he would be an ally to join. And he said no. And then, can you imagine, 10 days into his presidency, they called for an ASEAN here in our country, and still he refused.
yeah.
And then, 1972, can you imagine opening relationship with communist China and communist Russia at that time against, Washington and all of this. So you can imagine how it is that that is leadership. And at this particular stage, these candidates that we have should be able to stand up and say, we have to fight this global oligarchy that tries to control nations. It has been proven in so many instances with so many leaders and governments that they remove. Can you imagine? Why are they going to remove Gaddafi? They first, or Saddam Hussein.
Yeah.
This is, and what did they do in Afghanistan? Look at all the countries that they invaded and all the countries whose leaders they removed. Look at Iran.
Yeah.
They destroyed the image of the Shah of Iran. You even had the president toasting the Shah of Iran as the bastion of democracy, and then in a couple of months he was removed. So it's the same thing all over, and they've been doing that, and now we are at this stage.
Right.
They are moving here in our country, and whether our people are aware of this or not, Soros might be a strange name to the great number of our people, but we are not just under the oligarchs here in our country, but the tie-up that they have with the oligarchs of the world that controls the lives of people. And that's the tragedy that we're facing now. What are our expectations in this? As Sir Butch has said, why don't the candidates come up and do something about the way our elections are going to be manipulated, so that the candidate that they wish to win will be the one that will win? So this is where the hand of these outside forces are actually the danger. I don't know, they have so many names, Illuminati, etc., and all of this. But you could say that this is really the evil. And as Catholics, as a Christian country, it was the Pope himself who said that this is the greed of the global oligarchy that now controls and wants to control the world.
Yeah. Well, earlier, Rita, you were asking me, is there anybody that... And of course, I always jump at the chance to mention the name that I think can do it. No? But I wanted to give some sort of a background first as to what our problem is. No? And there still are people that I've asked. I want to let you know, and the people and the listeners know, about Lieutenant General Antonio Parlade. Parlade was a victim of travesty of justice, and his petition and candidacy was denied by COMELEC without any reason. His continuous petition to ask for a reconsideration was not even granted any kind of response. There was no COMELEC en banc resolution that told him that he cannot run because they could not give a reason. All they did was printed the ballot, and his name was not there, and didn't say anything about his candidacy. Why will they so scared of putting this guy into the ballot? Because he's a guy that has the intellectual competence. Everything we're talking about here, he's aware of. Intellectual competence and the moral courage to do something about it. But nevertheless, so he's not going to be a candidate. And that's how the COMELEC wanted it. Now, but what had happened? His capability is known to the candidates. And from what I understand, they have been reaching out to him, you know, and talking, and he has been able to talk so far to 2 groups. I cannot mention them. And guess what he is telling them? He is telling them what you and I are talking about right now. He is telling them that they should participate in a call for the president to do an examination of the whole electoral process. He is telling them to join up in a coalition of forces and surround COMELEC to demand that all of these processes be made public. That's what he's telling them. He's not there to become a candidate. And then he says, if these changes are going to be made, then whoever wins as president will feel good that he actually won in a clean election. And I don't know exactly what the results of his meetings were, but he is convincing enough, and persuasive, and it will be shown not to be politically motivated to suggest this. But this is very important. And I hope he's successful. And there will be people that will follow him.
Well, perhaps as we broadcast this as often as we go on air through social networking, we can be able to encourage more people and more leaders to look into this very important issue and join forces with whoever can be able to convince the COMELEC to do something about this kind of anomalous situation that is now slowly unfolding. Because as I've said, we only have 48 days to go. There is still time to do this. And it is really all up to us to be able to do something about it. We not just dream about it, but there is something that really ought to be done. Leadership, it really is, to quote a friend of mine, it's a conscience call, actually. So let's be very emphatic about this. And with your program, Sir Butch, together with Itos and all the other patriots that are with us in this KDP, and everybody else. So we'll be doing this as often as we can.
Yes.
We're just about 2 minutes before we close. And so again, Sir Butch, another appeal to our listeners. We're heard all over the world, especially those abroad. You would know this even more emphatically than us, because situations where you're at are actually unfolding the way it is here in our country. In the United States of America, you're as confused as your president as far as what's happening in Ukraine is concerned, and so is the world, because America is supposed to be leading us, or at least the free world, as they call it. But that's a different matter altogether. Perhaps one of these days we'll be discussing that.
Well, this development will take another couple of programs of yours for discussion, because humanity is at the crossroads now. Not Russia, not humanity. And whatever is threatening us now is a civilizational war. And we have to do our bit, not to wait for it to happen, but to be proactive, to see to it and do something, try to stop a global conflict from happening. And it can be done. There are ways. Difficult, but there are ways.
Okay, thank you very much, Sir Butch, for having joined me. I was hoping that we could get other people with us today. Bono Adaza doesn't want to talk anymore. He just sent me word he will talk to me after the elections and all of that. So thank you, Sir Butch, for having joined me. We'll be together again more often.
Thank you. It's my privilege, and I'm so glad to see you again, Rita.
Before we close, I'd like to again close with a prayer. Dear God, receive the offering of our love in gratitude for all the blessings that you have given us. May our minds be touched by your holiness and our hearts sheltered by your grace, and the work of our hands guided by your kindness. Open our souls to a deeper understanding of one another and of the duties we're obligated to perform. Transform our words into instruments of your divinity, O Lord, unifying all our diverse intentions into a common goal for the goodness and the welfare of every individual. We pray for the constancy of your light and your omnipotence, O God, as we humbly ask for the strength and the fortitude to transcend the weakness of our imperfections. For thine is the power, the glory, and your kingdom forever. Amen. Thank you for having joined me. This is your hour, and I'm Rita Gadi.